So today we're talking about think and be productive. More specifically, we're going to talk about the 3 principles of preparation. All right. So this is the kind of the first module of this whole thing. It's all about the principles of preparation. I'll go back to that quote here. So there's a quote by Paul J. Myers that says, "Productivity is never an accident. It is always the result of a commitment to excellence, intelligent planning, and focused effort." Okay, again, so this kind of states that it's really not an accident. You're not going to stumble upon great execution down the road. You're only going to get there if you intentionally take that way and make some commitments and be great at planning and focus. So we'll kind of keep going. So with this today, we're going to talk about 3 main principles. And the first principle is have a clear vision of your desired outcome. The second is plan first, produce second. So those of you veterans that are on the call here have probably heard me talk about this a bunch of times. And then the third is benchmarking. Okay, these are for some of our veteran general managers. These are all pretty routine, and they've been doing this for a long time. For some of you, this might be brand new. In fact, some of you maybe have had a lot of restaurant experience, and this might be new, and it might even seem a little different. And gosh, I've even had people say, I don't know about that. That doesn't make a lot of sense, and you don't get it. So one thing I'll say is this comes from a lot of experience, not just with myself, but also with our other managers and many other people in the industry. And so the things I'm going to talk about today are really universal principles. And the difference between an opinion or a value and universal principles is that universal principles apply to everybody, everywhere, at all times. It's just like the law of gravity. It's not like one person believes in the law of gravity and it applies to them, and another person doesn't agree with it or believe in it, and it doesn't apply to them. It's like, it doesn't matter whether you believe it or not, these things are going to apply. Okay, so if you think of it like that, this will help you kind of navigate through here so you can figure out where you want to stand, and hopefully it'll help you kind of get your mind clear going forward. So, all right, the 3 principles of preparation. So we'll start with have a clear vision of your desired outcome. So it kind of makes sense. Any of you guys raise your hand if you've taken a trip in the last 6 months somewhere across the state into another state or something, right? So I'll pretend I can see you raising your hands because you all have your cameras off. So if you're going to take a trip someplace, you got to know what your desired outcome is. If you don't know where you're going to go and someone says to you, where are you going to go on vacation? You say, I don't know. Okay, well, what's the next question? Like, how are you going to get there? Well, I don't know because I don't know where I'm going. So how are you going to know how you're going to get there if you don't know where you're going, right? And so the first thing is vision. And so what I want to talk today is, what does an A performance look like? Okay, what does an A performance look like? And so we have to begin with the end in mind. So one of the things about vision is that you have to begin with the end in mind. You have to know where you want to get to, right? And we need to know what an A level performance looks like, and we need to expect to hit it. Okay, so if you're looking at maybe instead of a trip where you're actually going to a physical place, you're going into a rush, and maybe it's a big rush that you're planning for. Maybe it's Halloween or Valentine's. You have to know what the outcome is at the end of the night. What do we want this to look like, and what will we have accomplished? So you got to be able to look ahead. And then, without a clear vision of what you're shooting for, we're just really going along for the ride, and we're leaving our outcomes to chance. And I'll tell you, in the restaurant world, about 80% of restaurant leaders or restaurant managers leave their outcomes to chance. And the other ones don't. The other ones are intentional. They decide what their outcomes are going to be, and then they work hard to get there. And so that's really the difference. I know that sounds like a lot, but I think if you really think back, like over your time as a restaurant leader yourself, you can probably recognize sometimes where you go into work and you're not really thinking about the end game. You just kind of start working, right? You just kind of get after it and start working, thinking that, well, as long as I work hard, then everything will turn out okay. But that's not always the case. So Andy Stanley says, vision always precedes preparation. Initially, your vision will exceed your competency. Okay, vision always precedes preparation. Initially, your vision will exceed your competency, but what happens then, as long as you keep your eye on your vision down the road, your competency will catch up to your vision, and that's how it works. So it's kind of magic. All right, I'm going to move on. So quick discussion here. So this is one of those times where I want you guys to give me some feedback. We won't spend a lot of time on this, but if I were to ask several Papa Murphy's managers, not just yourselves, but maybe 100 of them, what A performance looks like for any given shift, we'll just pick like a Friday night, what answers would you expect to hear? So feel free to unmute yourself and just throw out some quick answers. Get 5 or 6 people answering, and then we'll move on. What do you think?
Staying in your spots, that's definitely an important one.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Aces in your places. What else?
Communication is definitely a big one. Like, if we're not talking, we don't know what's going on.
Yep. Yep. What else?
Speed. How quick people are working.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Couple more. Okay.
Customer service for sure.
Yep.
Got to make sure the customers are happy.
That's right. Yep. Those are all good answers. Those are all good answers. And there's no, well, I guess there could be wrong answers, but none of your answers were wrong. But this was just to get an idea of what people might think of kind of off the top of their head. But I want to throw out a few more here. Okay. I want to peel the onion back. And now, granted, I had time to think through this. So if my answers seem better than yours, it's not because I'm cooler. It's because I got more time to think about it, and I'm the guy doing the presentation. So anyway, how about these ideas? So if somebody were to ask me, what does A performance look like? I might say something like key product counts completed by 4 p.m. by the closing manager. Making sure we have our product count so that closing manager knows what they have to serve. Maybe a pre-rush checklist completed, dishes done, trash taken out by 4 o'clock, right? Maybe mid-rush duties assigned, like, who fills the grab and go, who pulls crusts, for the sauce and cheeser, who sweeps the floors and restocks the make line, that kind of thing. Or maybe every employee talked into, through, and out of position by the person in charge. How about add-on sale goals and specials communicated to the register operators particularly? Maybe a labor plan of who goes home first if it's slow, or who stays late if it's busy. Be kind of nice to talk about that ahead of time, wouldn't it? Or I think somebody already said station assignments for sure. And then post-rush duties and assigned, and kind of what needs to, take place before somebody goes home. So that, it's kind of common knowledge. So people kind of already know, having a plan in place. And then, all of those are a little bit deeper, but it's what A performance look like. So what I would say is I would challenge you guys to, when we think about what A performance looks like for any given shift, let's not just think about like what the outcomes are. Like we want to hit, 50% on add-on sales, and we want to not have any mistakes. Those are all outcomes, which are great. But let's think about what it looks like and how it works throughout and how it works, and what are we doing to ensure that it works. And so that's kind of what this exercise was for, just to give us an idea of that. So that mental image that we have, some of those things that we all talked about there, that mental image that we have of an A performance, that needs to be top of mind awareness each day. So when you come in today, that needs to be top of mind awareness, right? You need to be thinking about those things, and so that you're anticipating. Now, you're not going to be able to think of them all at once, but if you could really be focused on what you're doing and what you need to prepare for, and what you like things to look like down the road, and how you like to see things go during the rush, you're going to have more of a top of mind awareness of those more advanced ideas. Okay. And that's really important. Systems and checklists help to support our vision, but they're not the vision itself. So yeah, you may have a checklist. You got to do your food safety checklist. You got to check off some things with the Red Book, but that's not your That's not the vision itself. It's what those things help you get. It's the way things run, the mindset the employees have as you're working through an evening. All of that, that's the vision. Some of the systems that we have in place are not the vision. So we don't check off things just to check off things, right? We check off things so that our vision becomes complete, because so that those things come to pass in a way that that they need to. Vision needs to be anchored at the top of your awareness, not on a clipboard. It needs to be communicated verbally with intentionality and purpose, and not just written on a form or a list. So this vision, this idea of what A performance looks like, this is something we need to communicate with people. When we have our employees start coming into work, we have to communicate these things. We got to talk about it. So it's really key that we understand what this A performance looks like, and that we're able to sort through it and communicate it well. Make sense? All right, so that's the vision component, understanding what an A performance looks like. So goals are also important, but without vision, goals go unmet. So I'm going to mention something that I've mentioned. I've mentioned this a few times in kind of some restaurant Facebook groups, but I said that really just to be an instigator, but I said that goals are ineffective. And I wrote a blog once that said goals are ineffective. I like to say that because people say, well, what do you mean goals are ineffective? I make goals all the time. How can you accomplish anything without goals? And say, but wait, it's not that they're ineffective, but they're not as effective as a vision. And if you have to choose between a vision or goals, you're better off with a vision versus goals. And so the reason why that is because if you're just focused on the goals, you're going to forget why you do them, and then you'll stop doing them. You'll stop trying to achieve them. You'll get part of the way through it. You're like, why am I going through all this? Like if you're trying to, if you're on a diet, for instance, if your goal is to be on a diet and accomplish a certain amount of weight that you want to lose, or strength that you want to accomplish, or whatever, and you just focus on all of the things that you can't have and all of the limitations and the restrictions. My goal is to only eat this many carbs. So you're thinking about what you can't do, or you're thinking about the pain that you're going to go through when you go lift weights and you have to go try to get healthy by lifting weights. So you're thinking about kind of the negative on that. But vision is different. Vision is when you think about what it's going to be like down the road when you're healthy. You envision being healthy. You envision needing less sleep. You envision having more energy all of the time and being happier, and your brain will work better. If you think about the vision and focus on that, oftentimes the goals will be really easy. But if you don't have a vision, the goals are so hard. They just seem insurmountable at times if you don't have a vision. So that's kind of the point of that. So you got vision and goals, and they both work hand in hand. However, you need to have your vision in place before you can do it. And it doesn't matter if you're running a shift on a Friday night or a Tuesday night, or if you're opening up a restaurant or whatever, moving to a new apartment. It doesn't matter if you don't have that vision in place first, the goals are going to be that much more difficult. Okay. So there is an ancient proverb that says, where there's no vision, people perish. Where there's no vision, people perish. And that's true. Where you don't have a plan, you don't really go anywhere. You just kind of stay in one place, because if you don't have a vision of where you want to go, you don't have any reason to try to go there or go anywhere, because you don't even know where there is, right? So, all right. Next one here. All right, counting the cost. Know what it's going to take to reach the finish line. So know what it's going to take to reach the finish line. So here's what that means. If an NFL team wants to win the Super Bowl, they need to understand that the competition is fierce, and it's going to be a battle, a dogfight. If they're going to win the Super Bowl, they need to understand that it's going to require teamwork, from everybody. It's going to take a whole lot of really hard practices. It's going to take changing the way you think so that you fit in and learn new things about, you know, the offense or the defense or the special teams or whatever it is. And so you have to figure out what it's going to take to get there. Or maybe if you're running a restaurant, I've seen a lot of people open restaurants before, including myself. And if you don't think through and really know what it's going to take to get there, if you don't count the cost, then you're going to miss the boat. Sometimes people will do something really big and they'll think, well, how hard can it be? Because they're not counting the cost. They're not seeing the truth about the matter. I've seen people that have had that perspective about running a Papa Murphy's restaurant. They open up their first Papa Murphy's restaurant and it smacks them in the face because they don't realize that this is more difficult than I ever thought. Or maybe an assistant manager getting promoted to a general manager position. It's like, yeah, well, I do everything that they do. I chop dough and I do things and I just do them a little faster than my general manager. And so why can't I do this? And then you get into a GM position, you realize, oh, this is all different. I'm responsible now for the whole store. So you need to count the cost and know what it's going to take and be okay with it, with no surprises. So a few questions we can ask ourselves about understanding what it's going to take is, we can ask ourselves, am I willing to pay the price that it's going to cost to get to this level that you want to get to, this thing that you want to accomplish? Am I willing to pay the price, right? Or what are my best options? If I'm going to do this, what are my best options? What do I need to do? What options do I need to look for? And maybe how do I solve this problem? And do I need to solve this problem? There's a lot of things that you need to think about when it comes to counting the cost. And so it's pretty important. All right. And the last one here is commitment. And so with commitment, embrace that standard without accepting a lesser version. So I'll tell you, so in my experience in the restaurant industry, in the working industry, and I've been doing this for over 30 years, and I have seen so many very, very capable people completely fail or just really never launch or get off the ground simply because they don't want to commit to anything. Sometimes people don't want to commit because of a fear of missing out. They don't want to commit to giving their all to a position in case something else opens up, that they can go do there. And so you see this in the job world where people will start a job, but they'll always keep one eye on everything else. Maybe they're always putting out applications, but they don't really want to commit to what they're doing in case there's something better comes along. You see this in the dating world. It's like people don't want to, they don't want to get married because then you'll be committed to something and you might miss out on a better opportunity, a hotter person that comes along or a richer person or a nicer person, whatever it is. And the truth is that uncommitment will keep you limited faster than really pretty much anything else. And I'll tell you, there's this law of uncommitment. And what it really says is that if you don't fully commit to whatever you're doing, you're actually fully committing to failing. Okay. If you don't fully commit to accomplishing what you want to accomplish, you're fully committing to not accomplishing it. Because the truth is you can't accomplish anything without first committing to it. Because if you don't commit to it, you're always going to fall short because you're leaving space for yourself to fall short with. And so I will tell you that I'm not one of those old guys. I'm not one of those boomers. I'm not a boomer anyway. I'm a Gen X guy, but I'm not one of those people that you'd see on TikTok or YouTube or wherever that kind of poo-poos on the millennials. I love millennials. I think millennials are awesome, and I feel like it's a pleasure for me to be able to work with you guys. And I think most of you are either Generation Y or millennials. But I will say this is nothing against you guys, but commitment is something. It's a value that's lacking in our younger generations versus older generations. We didn't see this quite the same. And so I don't think it's your fault. In fact, I'll just say it's probably my generation's fault because we're the ones that raised y'all. So But commitment is something, and if you can figure that out, if you can figure out that when you commit to something, your chances of succeeding go way up. And if you don't ever commit to anything, you're really not going to succeed in anything. Makes sense. Now, here's what I'll say, and I say this to all my managers when I hire them too. When I say commitment, what I don't mean is that you're locked in for life. It's not a time commitment like down the road. I want you to think of commitment instead of like horizontal, like with time. It's more vertical, like give me your best. Like I would say to my manager, any of my general managers, hey, if I get one great year out of you as a general manager, you're giving me your best and your all, I would rather have that than 4 years of you giving me 75%. Okay, does that make sense? Because when you give 100%, it affects everybody else around you, and it multiplies that value throughout your store, the organization, and your team. But when you work at 75%, that's also infectious, and then everybody else slows down too. So as the leader, you're the one that sets the pace, and so it's really important that whatever you do it with all your might. Do it well, and be the example, and then you'll get your best results.